Hi, my name is Nat, and I am the CEO and founder of EduKit. We're a social enterprise. We work with schools to help students around mental health, well-being, and staying positive. So hopefully you know that every day we organise a live show. And this week being half term, we are so pleased to have welcomed lots of co-hosts who are students who are on half term, who've been helping us to interview guests. So today's theme is all about making a difference, how you can set out to do something that makes a difference to other people's lives and that makes the world a better place. So we have two guests today, as ever. And we also have some co-hosts who are going to be helping us. But before we get started, I just want to remind you that we love to get your questions live because we can ask those during the show. So please do post your questions below. You can leave your name or not leave your name, it's up to you. And then we will ask your questions live. So I'm really excited about our first two guests who are going to be speaking together. So we have Layla. She is the founder of Chef Koochooloo, and her daughter, Delarai, who also is her co-founder. So I'm going to invite them now to the show. Hello, ladies.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Gosh, I can't really see you now that I've squished you up a little bit. Can we? Yeah. Thank you. It's lovely, lovely to see you. I'm very excited to welcome you to our show. So first of all, where in the world are you guys at the moment?
In Belgium.
You're in Belgium. That is fantastic. And Delarai, you are a founder of Chef Koochooloo. How old are you?
11.
Well, that is incredibly impressive. I mean, I have my own business as well. I'm a founder, but I'm definitely nowhere near 11. So I definitely think that's a huge, huge accomplishment. So we'd love to know a little bit more about you and your journey. Do you have a video or something you'd like to share so we can do a quick introduction, and then I can introduce our co-hosts and we can get a sense of a bit more about who you are and what you've been doing for the last few months?
Yes, we sent a video to Emma if she'd like to share. We have sent her two videos. One is showing Delarai's work, what she does for Chef Koochooloo. She creates our online training program. And we also sent her a video later on if we talk about the COVID and some ideas what you could do to make the COVID fun.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll probably just show one video today to give an idea of what you do. But while we're bringing that up, do you want to just give a quick summary in a sentence of what Chef Koochooloo is all about? Delarai?
Yes. Chef Koochooloo is a company that teaches kids all around the world STEAM through healthy cooking and appreciating each other's cultures.
Wonderful. And I love that about what you guys do. It's a combination of healthy cooking, as you said, and nutrition, and staying healthy is so important, but it's also about embracing different cultures and countries. And we all need to be able to do that more right now. So I think it's such a lovely company. Okay, great. So now let's have a look and see if we have a video that gives a bit of a sense of what you guys are about. Let's see. Is the video ready? Okay, it's just going to be another couple of seconds.
Hello, today I'm going to teach you all how to peel and mince garlic. Garlic was first discovered in Central Asia 6,000 years ago and is a natural healing power. It helps lower your cholesterol levels. So first off, to peel the garlic, you're going to want to get a knife and separate the cloves with the knife. Once they are all separated, put them inside hot water and whisk them for 1 to 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, they're going to slowly, one by one, take out each clove and peel the skin off. Next, you want to get a clove and smash it with a knife sideways. By the way, French people call a clove in goût. And garlic tastes awesome almost in every dish. Have fun cooking!
That is a lovely, lovely video. And that's a great trick that I didn't know before, how to get the skin off there, how to peel a garlic. So that's really, really helpful. You're a real natural. So listen, we want to get to know much more about you and your organization. So I'm going to introduce our co-hosts for today. So we have Sophia and we have Isabel. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
You're very, very welcome. So I am going to hand over to one of my wonderful co-hosts to see if they want to ask the first question for Delarai.
What are some ways that you've been coping with what's happening at the moment?
Since we're in lockdown, we can do things that we haven't had time to do before we were in lockdown. Like we had too many activities, but now that all the activities are shut down, we can learn new things and things that we've been wanting to do. Like for example, you can learn how to paint, or learn how to sew, or learn how to cook or bake, learn a new recipe. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you a question on that, because you're right, it's a good time to learn how to cook. Where do you get the ideas for the different dishes and the way that you're going to present them to your audience? Do you do that with your mum? Do you and your mum work together to come up with some of the recipes?
Yes.
We go shopping a lot and we do gardening, and then based on what's looking really good in the market or in our garden, like we have some herbs that keep growing, like tons of mint. Right now, even in the winter, the mint and the parsley are surviving in the garden. So we bring it home. We're like, okay, what can we do that's unique with our garden, with our mint today that we haven't already done? And then Delarai likes to mix and experiment. And the biggest thing is not to be afraid. Like, so what if it turns out disgusting? Luckily, Delarai's younger sister, Annalisa, she's a good sport. She eats pretty much anything. So no matter how disastrous it is, at least she'll try it. And then, but then depending on how she scores it, we decide whether or not to add it to our application.
Got it. No, that's fabulous. Lots and lots of creativity and lots of ideas. Let's see if one of our other students has a question. Sophia?
Were you bullied? Yes, I was bullied for my healthy food since the kids there weren't used to it. They were like, ew, what is that? Like, that's disgusting. So yes, I would get bullied for it.
Yeah, so to give them more context, we were living in Mountain View, California, and the school where Delarai attended, most of the children were from Latin America, Mexico, El Salvador, Peru, or the United States, and their food obviously looked very different than the foods that I was cooking. I'm from Iran, and my husband and Delarai's father is from Belgium, so the kind of cooking I would do looked very different to them, and but it's very healthy. Iranian food is very healthy, and when Delarai would pack it and take it to school, other kids would be like, ew, that's gross, like, and they would make fun of Delarai for it. And yeah, that's what it wasn't exactly bullying, I suppose, but it was making fun of her, and that was not nice.
Well, what I find so inspiring about you ladies is that you took that experience and that became the inspiration for what you've created, which is amazing. Really, really great.
Thank you.
Okay, Isabel, do you have another question?
Yes. How did you reach where you are today, and what would you have liked to have known when you were a kid?
I would have liked to know, well, I'm still a kid, but when I was younger, I would have liked to know that languages are always useful, and they're important to learn, because when I was younger, my mom was pushing me. She was like encouraging me to like learn French, and then I was complaining about it. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. But now that I did it, and then now that I'm in Belgium, I'm grateful that I learned French so I could talk it here.
And again, that's linking in with just embracing different cultures, isn't it? And really seeing the beauty in what every country has to contribute in terms of cuisine and language and everything else. Yeah,
Definitely.
And Sophia?
Because of the bullying, did you ever lack in self-esteem?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the themes that we've worked on over the last few weeks with these podcasts and webinars. Just understanding how sometimes what other people say to us impacts how we feel about ourselves. Were there any ways that you were able to use what you're doing with Chef Koochooloo to make yourself feel better, or cooking? Delarai?
I'm not sure I understand.
So if you were feeling low in terms of your self-esteem because of some of the things you were experiencing, did cooking help you feel better?
Yes.
Yeah, and even me at my age, girls, I still feel bullied, and I still feel sad when, in business, I'm sure as Natalie can relate, you have to hear a lot of no's. So like all day long, we have to hear like, 90 no's just for that one yes. So it can definitely hurt your self-esteem. But one thing that helps me and Delarai, and we both practice this, is like having positive affirmations for ourselves. So we stick it around like on the fridge or on the closet, like, I am wonderful, I am good at this. And also every time a negative thought comes to haunt us, we try to replace it by a positive one. So for instance, if somebody tells me, oh, Chef Koochooloo program sucks, you're never gonna raise money with this, you might as well shut down now. So of course I feel sad hearing that, but right away before I feel sad, I'm like, okay, is this the truth, or is this person's opinion? And because different people can have different opinions. And then I write, okay, today, let's say Mr. Jack Smith said Chef Koochooloo sucks, and this idea, nobody's gonna like it. But next to it, I'm gonna write Natalie, Emma, Christine, who said, oh my God, Chef Koochooloo is amazing, and this program inspired us. And when we compare it like that, we see that actually more people like it than we know. But somehow always hearing that negative thing makes us feel like it's more important for some reason. So we all as human beings have to practice, because if you get down to it, like a kid calling you stupid at school, you're like, oh my God, everybody's calling me stupid. But then when you look at all the people who are not calling you stupid, if you make a list, then you realize it's just one little person and their opinion. And it really goes back to how they feel about themselves more than how they feel about you, because they're having a bad day, or they're jealous because they couldn't make the program as exciting as you made it. So you have to keep that in mind.
Yes.
No, great response. And we had a question from a student called Zoe asking if you've grown in confidence since you've had your business. I mean, have some of those learnings been over the last few years, Layla and Delarai, in terms of how to deal with the feedback you get from other people and staying strong? Because as your mum said, you have to deal with lots of no's, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can grow in confidence. That's great. Right, Isabel or Sophia, do either of you have another question? Oh, we're out of questions from the co-hosts. If you are watching live, please do post your questions. But I have a question for you around, I think it's so important to stay really focused on really good nutrition and good food. Do you find that young people like to cook? Because it's great to see Delarai in the kitchen, trying and experimenting with her different dishes. Do lots of other young people like to cook like you, Delarai?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this idea, remember, it grew as a grassroots project. And Grassroots means, we weren't like, we didn't go to an investor and get money and come and say, oh, let's open a company, right? Grassroots, it really means it started from the bottom, from the community. So the whole thing started when Delarai was getting bullied. So then she told me, Mom, can I have money so I can buy the same lunch as my other classmates from the cafeteria? And I said, sure, Delarai, I'm happy to give you the money, but I also want to tell you the story about healthy eating and how this recipe came to me from my grandmother. And then, let me also tell you about how hot dogs are made, and then you decide what you want to eat. And then Delarai said, oh, I never want to try a hot dog again. And so then she started feeling a bit more confident to answer your previous question. So she went back to school and she stood up for herself and the kids who were making fun. And she said, well, you know what? This is a recipe from my grandmother. And when I cook it, I remember her. So you don't have to make fun of me. But also, why don't you try it? And then Delarai's teacher asked me, hey, can you come give the same lesson in her class, because other kids are curious. So we went and taught them a cooking lesson, and we did a Mexican dish, and they were all like, oh my God, I love it. And so then the next day their moms called, they're like, can you send us the recipe? They want to cook the same thing. So I think that after having done this for 5 years, we realized that all kids love to cook. I don't think we've ever met a kid who said they didn't want to cook. Have we?
Yeah, no.
No, there was one boy I remember from the very first class that we had. It was actually the kid who was bullying Delarai. His name was Sean. So Sean, I remember his mom put him in the class, and the first thing he came and said, I just want to tell you, I don't love to cook. I hate vegetables, and I'm just here because my mom forced me to be here. So we said, okay, Sean, that's fine. You can sit here and draw or do whatever you want. You don't have to cook. But then as the rest of the kids started cooking, we were making guacamole. And they were having fun, getting the guacamole out, the scheme, practicing like how you can get the bowl perfectly out. And then he comes in and he's like, can I do it too? And we're like, all right, but nobody's forcing you. And after that, he was like, if you put onions, I'm not going to eat it. We're like, well, guacamole has onions in it, so you don't have to eat it. But, then, of course, we added the onions. And, of course, he was the first one to want to try it. So he was the only one who ever said he didn't like it, and then, of course, liked it. But, yeah, cooking is wonderful because both boys and girls like it equally. It's not like something that boys enjoy more or girls enjoy more. Old people, young people. The only people who don't maybe not super enjoy it are people who are super busy, like your parents' age, who have a lot of things to do. They might not have as much excitement about it, because cooking really delicious meals does take time. And, it takes passion and preparation.
Yes.
Absolutely. And talking about passion, so we have questions coming in, lots of questions about cooking, actually. So why are you so passionate about cooking? And that can be either of you. Yeah. Delarai.
Well, I think I just have the feeling, and then whenever I cook, it just makes me happy, and it makes me think about something else than like that I was sad about. Like, it can get my mind off it and just makes me happy. Yeah.
To Delarai's point, cooking is one of the kind of those actions that helps you with meditation. I know meditation and mindfulness is a big topic these days, but a lot of times it sounds really hard to do, right? Like, oh, I don't like sitting quiet and doing yoga, or, I just can't meditate, all these thoughts. But cooking is a form of meditation. If you're like there, really focused on how you chop the vegetables, it's a very calming exercise. But we also like it because we love to eat and the results. Delicious.
Of course. And what are your favorite dishes to cook? Just give us some examples of what you like cooking.
I love cooking gourmet sabzi. It's a Persian dish it's like a stew, and it's like for winter. It's like with herbs and beans. So I love that.
Fabulous. And that's a Persian dish, you said?
Yes.
I will have to check it out. It sounds lovely and very healthy as well. So it's good to pick something that's also healthy. So we have more questions. So why were you drawn towards cooking compared to other things? And that came from Andrea in year 12. So there's so many different things you could be doing with your time. Why is it cooking that's particularly special for you?
Well, I am doing many things, not just cooking, but cooking is one of my passions.
Yeah, Delarai is also a great painter. And especially with COVID, she has taken advantage to do a lot of painting. So this is one of her latest paintings. And painting makes her happy. She's also taken up sewing lately.
Yes, I learned how to sew.
Making her own aprons for Chef Koochooloo, masks. So she does have many activities.
Very, very impressive entrepreneur, I have to say, Delarai, that you managed to do so many things and still go to school, presumably, and keep up to date with your schoolwork is really impressive. And in another country, you know, now in Belgium, where presumably you're speaking French, it's extraordinary. So I still have lots of questions coming in from students. One from Maris in year 12 says, are you planning on starting a restaurant business? And if so, what are your plans for the future? Would it be online or would it also have a public place open? So clearly your ideas are exciting our audience and they want to know what is next for Chef Koochooloo.
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, when I was younger and still now, I've been dreaming about having my own restaurants. And so, yeah, to answer her question, I would love to open my own restaurant when I'm older, and it would be public.
Ah, yes. And where might your restaurant be? Would it be, do you think it would be in Belgium? Would it be in the US? Would it be somewhere else?
It would be everywhere, like in Belgium.
It would be a chain.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be a chain of restaurants, yes.
You heard it first here, guys. The Chef Koochooloo international chain of restaurants. Fantastic. So we have another question from Zoe, who asks, has the pandemic affected your business positively? So, I mean, what's been happening over the last 12 months for you guys?
Well, we used to go in schools and teach, but now that the schools are all shut down, we've had to do it, like we had to make the app and then do it online. So it has impacted.
But it has been good or not so good? Has it been good?
Yeah, it was negative in one way because we stopped making revenue now for 1 year because most of our tools are free, like our app is free, our videos are free. So we were just charging when we would go into a school and teach. That's the only time we would charge. And since March, that stopped. So we haven't been making any money. But thanks to the pandemic, like we had the chance also to relax because we were in 30 schools. So going every day into schools, it was so much work for us that we didn't have time to make a better version of our product or like go back. And so because of the pandemic, we took a step back. We translated everything into Spanish. We've improved the app. And now it's going to launch in June, a brand new version that's going to be much better than the previous version.
Got it. And can you tell us a little bit about the app? What does it do?
So it teaches STEAM through cooking, and like it has like some math facts like while you go through the lesson, and there's like steps for, and like, yeah.
It's a free app, so you guys are all welcome to download it. We have a version for free on iOS and Android. And so it's kind of like a cooking game. The experience begins when you choose a country from the 3D globe, and then you land on the country and you start learning a fun fact about the country. And then as you start cooking, it has like a fun math challenge that pops up, and then some recipe directions and learning about the ingredients, why they're good for you, which ingredients are good for you, and what. And then each lesson ends by you learning about an issue that's impacting kids in that particular country and how you can take action to make a positive change.
That's wonderful, and that ties in nicely with our theme today, which is about making a difference. So can you talk about how you make a difference through your work?
Well, I make a difference because I teach kids all around the world that about different cultures. Like, for example, when I was making fun of, so that doesn't happen to other kids, so that the bullies can understand and stop it.
Yeah, so we teach kids about the importance of respecting other cultures. We bring out the positives in every culture, like how every culture's food is delicious and can teach others about that country more. And also we highlight the issues that are impacting kids and why kids should care and how they should contribute towards the change.
No, that's brilliant. And you're such a good role model as well, Delarai. I have to say, there'll be so many young people watching you and thinking, wow, look at all the great things she's doing, how busy she keeps herself, so many ideas. You're doing art and cookery and so many other things. So I think you're also just making a difference by showing a lot of young people that it's possible, which is really, really impressive. So how are you guys staying positive other than cooking? Is there anything else that you're doing right now? Because here in the UK, schools have been closed for a while. I don't know if they're closed in Belgium or not, but it's been a tough time for some of us. So how are you guys staying really positive?
Well, like I said, I do other activities, like you can make a bucket list and learn how to do new things that you didn't have time to do before lockdown, like learning how to paint, learning how to cook, like the things that I already said.
Yeah, I took the advantage. I always wanted to be an author. So I sat down and finally during Christmas, which was kind of depressing because, you couldn't be with your family for Christmas. And so I took the time to just write, and I wrote over 10 books already. So over in a period of 1 or 2 months, that would have never happened because we're kind of social butterflies. So during non-COVID time, we're always invited to a birthday party or we're hosting, or we're going to, hiking with our friends and doing things. So it gave us time to recollect ourselves and spend more time with the family and write, and things that are kind of solitary that need you to be by yourself to really do well. Sewing is another one of those things. It's Delarai always wanted to learn how to sew, but it's when your friends want to play and you're invited to families' houses, it's kind of hard to make time for sewing. But now finally she's done it, and she's thinking maybe now she wants to open her own fashion line in her next career.
Wow, can you tell us a little bit about that? That's extraordinary.
Well, I've always dreamt of creating outfits and having a fashion business that will be like a giant chain. But I've already designed all of my clothes on a piece of paper, and I just really want to make them, and I like sewing, and it's just one of my passions.
Yeah, Delarai has a lot of allergies to different textiles and materials, so most of the clothes are uncomfortable for her. So she's inspired to make comfortable clothes that also look fashionable, because usually comfortable clothes don't look that beautiful. So then she's designed them all, and now the next step I told her is if you learn to sew, then we can start prototyping. And I would just like to step in to tell you guys all, I used to think as a kid that you have to wait to grow up to do all these things. And I hate when people ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? You guys don't have to wait. This is now we are living in an age where you can do anything you want at any age. And Delarai is a good example of that. I mean, if it wasn't for her, Chef Koochooloo wouldn't exist. And so when she told me, Mom, I want to be a fashion designer, I don't tell her like most moms say, okay, when you grow up, you could do that. I tell her, okay, well, let's make a plan on how we're going to get there. So what is the first thing you should do if you want to get there? And then also sometimes, we have a lot of ideas. And when we start to make the plan, we realize that's okay. Maybe I don't really want to do this because, you know, it does involve a lot of those steps that if you find the steps very boring and not exciting, then you know that this is probably not something you want to do when you grow up, you know, because like, let's say she also wants to be a politician. So I've told her, okay, here's the steps we need to take to be a politician, and here's the steps to make to be a fashion designer. And let's see which one of these lists is more exciting for you to do. And then based on that, you know which direction you kind of want to go.
No, I think that's great. You are fearless. You have so many ideas, so much passion, and it's great that your mum is allowing you to and empowering you to be able to explore those things while you're still young. It's wonderful to see. And you know, we sometimes talk about entrepreneurship and the fact that Mark Zuckerberg was 19 when he started Facebook, but he actually had businesses when he was in high school, right? So you're absolutely right, Layla. If you have something you're interested in, there is no reason why you can't start a project or start even a business, as Delarai is showing when you're still at school. Very inspiring indeed. I'm just going to check and see if my co-hosts have had any other questions or thoughts that have popped up before we wrap up. Yes, Sophia? Oh, if you just come off mute. Oh, you don't have anything. Okay. All right. No worries. Well, listen, we're at time, but I've really, really enjoyed speaking to you both today. Layla, I have to say, you're a huge inspiration, and you know what you are doing with the business and supporting Delarai is fantastic. And Delarai, wow, honestly, to have so many ideas and be so accomplished and so polished and so full of energy at your age, I think is wonderful. And I think you'll be a huge inspiration to all of the young people who are watching. So thank you so much for both making some time to come and spend some time with us today.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting us today. Best of luck.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Enjoy the rest of the day and the weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Right, so that was Delarai and Layla, who are co-founders of Chef Koochooloo, talking to us about their passion for cooking and about the fact that you're never too young to pursue your dreams. So normally at this stage, I hand over to another guest. But today being the last day of half term, the student interns that we have on our team, we're keen to hear what I had to say about the business that I run, EduKit, about being a CEO and about my experiences. So I am going to hand over to them for some questions for me. So Isabel and Sophia, if you come off mute. Isabel, right, what questions would you like to ask me?
Okay. How did you start EduKit, and what were the first steps you took?
Oh, great question. So I used to work at Apple. So you all know Apple from iPhones and iPads and lots of things like that. And it's a place where people are really innovative and creative, and they make world-changing products. So I had been in that experience, but wanted to start my own business. And when you're starting your own business, a bit like you saw earlier with Delarai, they say to start with something you feel passionate about. Like, take something you really love. In fact, they normally say, pick something that you would do for free. And if you would do it for free, then that means that you're really, really passionate and really excited about it. So I thought about the things that really made me feel excited. And a lot of it was what I'm doing now, is working with young people and helping young people to see the potential in themselves, to be able to create a really great life and future for themselves, and to understand the opportunities available. So I thought, okay, well, maybe in that case, I need to work with schools. So I actually picked up the phone and called a school and just said, I have an idea to start a social enterprise, and it's going to be helping young people to achieve their potential. And I had a few ideas, and the teacher I spoke to was kind enough to say, yep, you can come in, speak to me. And I came in with a pad of paper and I took lots and lots of notes. And then I came up with the idea for EduKit. So that's how I started. I left my job. I met with lots of teachers. I formulated some ideas, and then I just got going.
That's really interesting. a bit of a follow-up question. What part of schools and young people intrigued you? What intrigued you to work with those people specifically?
Another great question. So I find that so much of the people that we will become in future is set when we're at school. There are a lot of people who've come to these podcasts and who've been talking about the fact that they used to be bullied. I certainly was picked on by some of the other students at my school. There are lots of people who had issues, you know, maybe issues at home or came from difficult environments or who got into the wrong friendship groups. And sometimes those things carry through for the rest of their lives. And so it always felt to me like if you want to make a really big impact on people, make a big change in people's lives, if you can get to people when they're young and they're still at school and they're still figuring stuff out, you can completely change their lives for the better. So that was something that I really felt really passionately about. And I also like the idea of being a role model. So, for example, in the work that I do at EduKit, you know, I'm running a tech company. There aren't as many women, for example, running tech companies. And I just love the opportunity to be a role model to other young people who might want to do something similar. So those two things, I would say, the opportunity to make a change and also to hopefully inspire other people to pursue their dreams as well. But
that's really nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned a bit then about you being bullied. If you had this app when you were younger, do you reckon it could have helped you?
Oh, great question. Some really good questions. Yes, in simple terms, because so first of all, just in people aren't familiar with the app, it's a free app that we've developed, which allows students to be able to access resources and support to help them with their mental health and well-being. And the reason I think that's useful is because sometimes when you're being picked on by other students, or if you're dealing with stuff at home or stuff in your life that isn't going according to plan, sometimes you can just feel really, really alone, really isolated, really like nobody understands you or you don't know who to speak to. And at those times, if you have friends to reach out to, that's great. But sometimes you don't know how to speak to them. You don't know if they're going to understand. So having access to what we've created on the app, which is basically a list of like different resources, videos, other young people telling their story, professionals talking about how to get help. It means that whatever you need, there is something there available for you. And sometimes that's all you need to feel better enough that you can reach out to somebody else or you can think about something differently. And sometimes if you don't have that support, then things just escalate. And they escalate a lot more than you could even have imagined at the beginning. So absolutely, I think if EduKit had existed, if the app had existed, I would have used that, definitely. And I think it could have made a really, really big difference in my life at that time. And that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about making sure all young people can access that type of support. So Sophia, it looks like you have another question. Do you have another question for me?
Yeah. So I read that you studied MBA in Singapore and France. What was it like working in those places?
Oh, I love traveling, first of all. I have traveled to lots and lots of different places. What was it like? So they couldn't be more different. So it was the same course, but it had two campuses. So when I was in France, we were in the middle of the forest. So you'd be going home from the business school, which was like a university, and seeing wild boar, so like pigs running around, which was really, really quite strange. Whereas when we were in Singapore, we were in the middle of this really vibrant city, you know, so many people, so many restaurants and so much culture and so many different things to do. So it couldn't have been more different. One was in the middle of the winter in France. The other was in obviously quite a hot country in Singapore. So it was fantastic. It was great to get to know a different culture. It was my first time in Asia when I was in Singapore. So it was really a good opportunity to get to see other foods, coming off what we were talking about earlier, other ways of life, other professional means, meet people from all around the world. I got to go to Japan when I was there as well, which was fantastic. So it was great. It was a really good experience. Okay, Isabel, you look like you might have another question for me.
We've been having a lot of questions in. One of them's from Andrea in year 12, and she asks, why have you chosen to start a company related to mental health rather than a product based around business?
Ooh, well, so let me just explain a bit about what we do as a social enterprise, because I think it's really, really cool. And I must admit, I didn't really know much about social enterprise before. So most of you would have heard about charities. So charities are organizations that don't make a profit, that make the world a better place by helping people that are less fortunate. And then you have business. And typically business is not about doing those things. It's about creating profit and scaling and creating products and services that people will buy. And for me, social enterprise sits in the little middle bit, if you see two circles, a Venn diagram, because we have a social mission, but also we are a business, so we can innovate and create new products and services. So for me, we have created a business, we are creating a business, but the business we are creating is one that helps schools to help children. And the reason I picked mental health and well-being, I think two things. First of all, I have to say that there isn't as much support in this area. There are lots of homework apps and there's lots of support around maths and science and people doing really fantastic work across the curriculum, but to come up with ideas for better ways for young people to learn. But when we think about our mental health and well-being, there aren't as many options out there that are readily available for young people. So I saw a gap that needed to be filled and an opportunity to fill that in a really kind of creative, innovative way. And then also going back to my earlier point, I think mental health and well-being is so important because it's actually more important than anything that you'll learn in a book, right? Because as important as it is to study, and I have studied, I've taken my studies very seriously in my life, and I believe in educating yourself and getting as far as you can, or certainly as you want to go. At the same time, if you are not happy within yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you're not strong emotionally and able to cope with the ups and downs of life, then everything else, it's really difficult to make anything else work, right? So one of the other reasons that I thought mental health was important was because without good mental health, you can't be a happy and productive person. So those are kind of the two reasons, because I felt there was a gap as well as, the need to support people around that area.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have another question coming from the floor?
Yeah, we have lots and lots of questions coming in, actually. Another one from Sam in year 10. Okay. You mentioned being a woman in tech. Mm-hmm. How do you personally support women in your business?
Oh, how do I personally support women in my business? Well, first of all, I would say almost coincidentally, but we have a lot of women who work at EduKit. How do I support women in my business? First of all, I really value the contribution of everybody. And for me, diversity and inclusion is really, really important. So I'll just explain that very quickly. I mean, throughout my career, and I've worked in lots of careers that have been very undiverse or very male, I've always wanted to see environments where everybody can excel, irrespective of their gender, of their ethnicity, of their religious background, anything, right? We all have huge amounts of potential, and you just want everybody to be treated fairly and allowed to achieve. So I try my best in the company that I've founded to make sure that we embody those values. But certainly for anybody in any role, I'm always trying to make sure that people feel comfortable about what they're doing, that they feel well supported, that they feel encouraged, that they feel that they can do anything they want to do. And I think that the only thing that might be different in terms of how I would support people who maybe come from less represented backgrounds, whether it's women in tech or people from different ethnic backgrounds, is just giving them that sense of self-belief and support, because it's really important. But fundamentally, my belief is that we all have so much to contribute. And what I would say is that when there are so few women in tech or or people of color in tech or leading businesses, then it almost becomes even more important to be that role model, because sometimes you don't know, but somebody else looks at you and they think, if she can do it, then I can do it too. And that's where, without you even having to do very much, you are inspiring other people. And I think that's really, really rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. Sophia, have you got a question?
Yeah. So, what are your goals for the future, and where do you see your business going in the next couple of years?
Great questions, guys. My goals for the future. So we have created a business that works now with, I'm sure it's well over 1,000 schools, where we are supporting them in supporting their students. And we now have an app, which is a really scalable technology. And we know that young people are always on their phones, right? One of our head teachers said, our kids are always on their phones, we need to be there too. So we now have created a way for schools to be able to be present on mobile phones and supporting students, and making sure that students have somewhere to turn, as I said earlier, if they need something. So I would just like to see as many schools as possible using that technology. And one key piece of that is why we're running the program that you guys were on, which is the Work Experience program, because I want young people to help to shape that. I really do. I have to say, over the last 3 weeks, for those of you who are watching who might not be aware, we've been running a work experience program, and we've learned so much from you guys, from the other participants on the program, so many great ideas about how we can use the app to change young lives. And I want to continue doing that, continue empowering young people so that you can make the changes in your lives and in your schools that you want to see. So yeah, so I definitely think it's more people and schools and young people having access to the app, but also making sure that young people have a voice, so that you can get behind the types of causes that you care about. And that's why the student voice aspect of the app, the idea that you can care about an issue, topic, and add that content to the app and get other people behind it, is also something I really want to develop. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you.
Isabel, looks like you might have another question for me.
Yes. Looking at the organisation's website, it says that you found EduKit to help schools support students with their mental health. Mm-hmm. So what was the most challenging part of forming the business EduKit?
Really, really, really good question. Honestly, it's difficult working with schools. Let me explain. So schools are, I love working with schools, and our team really loves working with schools because I have so much admiration for teachers. My parents were teachers. I think that to teach is one of the most rewarding careers because you're literally transforming young people. Like without teachers, societies couldn't function. You have to have people go and support the next generation to give them the skills, expertise, and belief to be able to achieve their potential. So for me, the opportunity to work with schools is like fantastic. But schools are very difficult to work with because most of the time, the people that you need to sell to, the people that you need to engage with are teaching or marking or in parents' meetings or in staff meetings or dealing with an incident in school. So you don't get very much time to have those important conversations when you're trying to explain what you want to do. And we also, yesterday we talked a lot about politics for those of you who tuned in. And there's always hearing about teaching and when people are talking about politics, but there's more and more pressure on teachers and they seem to have to do more with less time. And that's not a good environment when you're trying to introduce something new because teachers are thinking, you know, I already have so much work to do. So I would say that one of the most challenging aspects, Isabel, to answer your question was that I picked in a field, an area that I am personally very passionate about, but is by its nature really difficult. But I've always felt that just because something's really difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And as I said, for me, it's so rewarding to work with young people and to work with young people in the way we wanted to. We had to work with schools because in this country, at least, and not all countries, it's the same, unfortunately, every child has to be enrolled in a school. Every child has to get an education. So if we want to make sure that we can reach every child, working and supporting schools is the way to do that. But that I would say has probably been the hardest aspect because it's really difficult to engage with an audience that is so busy supporting young people.
Yeah. A bit of a follow-up question. You mentioned if something's hard, there's no reason you can't do it. What was one of the biggest risks or challenges that you faced in your life?
Ooh. Well, first of all, I'll talk about EduKit specifically, and that may be the biggest risk, because I used to work in the corporate field. So I worked for lots of big American companies, mainly actually, like Accenture, which is a big management consulting company. And I also worked for Apple, as I said. And so you have a certain career where there's a lot of security. You know, you earn a salary, and you have a pretty good idea what your salary is going to be month on month, and things seem quite stable. But when you then leave that and start something that is your idea, where you're starting it from scratch, and you literally start with a blank sheet of paper, and you start by saying, well, what problems do I see that, you know, young people are facing and that schools are facing? And you start designing something that you think can address those problems. That is really scary, because on day one, there is no salary. There is nobody paying your bills. And all you have is a dream. You just have ambition and a sense that you have the skills and the experience and the network to create something that is going to be valuable. So I would say that's probably one of the scariest things. And as I said, that shouldn't let you hold you back. And it's so rewarding when you make it and you achieve, because it was so hard in the beginning. But I would say on day one, when you realize that, you know, there are risks, then it can be quite scary.
Yeah. Sophia, have you got a question?
Yeah, there's a question from someone in year 11. Why is it called EduKit, and what does it mean?
Another great question. So I was trying to come up with a name that was unique, that said education, but that wasn't too education heavy, because we're not about the bits, we're not about the academic curriculum, right? We're not teaching biology or history. We're more about making sure that young people have the right foundations in order to take full advantage of their education. So EduKit is kind of a toolkit for education and for creating, as I said, a foundation for young people to do well in their lives. So yes, it's a toolkit. And part of that toolkit is bringing together different parties, be it schools, youth organizations. So we do a lot of work with charities and social enterprises that help young people, particularly those who are from disadvantaged backgrounds. We want to introduce parents into that. It's about pulling together all of those players who need to play a part in supporting young people. And that's why we have the 4 colors, actually. The 4 colors are for schools, youth organizations, parents, and young people themselves. And those 4 need to come together to make sure that young people can achieve their potential. But yeah, a toolkit for education is what we're about. Oh, another question?
We've got some more questions from people. Year 8, what inspired you to...
What inspired me?
What inspired you to intake EduKit?
What inspired me to what, sorry? Initiate. Oh, right, okay. I mean, I thought there was a problem that I wanted to fix. So I saw an opportunity to do something that nobody else was doing. So that was a real kind of drive right at the beginning, that I saw something and I felt like there would be an opportunity to fix it. And the problem was there was a big gap around mental health and well-being, and also not enough connection to youth organizations. So I had done a lot of mentoring with organizations in London, helping young people in disadvantaged areas, working with young women, things like that. So I felt like there's all this support out there for young people, but nobody's connecting that support with schools. So I thought, well, if we can help to bridge that gap, then every young person who has a need can know, okay, I'm struggling with, self-esteem, but over here is this great organization that helps young people with self-esteem. I have issues around identity and maybe somebody is thinking about coming out. Oh, here's an organization with lots of great LGBTQ role models. Why don't we make it easier for young people to find the support they need so they don't get any of those issues around well-being and mental health? So that was one of the main reasons right at the very beginning, when I had my bit of paper and I wrote down all the things that I felt that we needed to fix. Those were some of the things that were on the piece of paper at that time. That was one of the reasons. Any other questions? Isabel?
Another question that's come in. What would you say has been EduKit's peak moment?
Ooh, our peak moment, because there have been lots of highlights along the way. And I must admit, the very first school customer is when you go, yay, you're so pleased that there's a school that wants to, but this is many years ago, this is 6-7 years ago now, first school that wants to engage you. The peak moment, it's going to sound really cheesy, but I honestly mean this. We work with schools. Schools are our customers. And over the last few years, we've been setting well-being surveys, mental health and well-being surveys for students. So there have been hundreds of thousands of students who've taken one or more of our surveys. But we've never engaged with young people themselves. We've never had these types of conversations before. We've helped your teachers, so your teachers knew about us, but you didn't know about us. And I have to say, these last few weeks have been a real highlight for me, because you are the reason that I created EduKit. I love working with teachers, but I'm working with teachers because they support young people like you. So being able to work with you and the other students who have come onto the program has been so rewarding. The feedback that we have, I mean, a lot of it's been really positive. Some of it's been feedback for the product so we can improve it. But that has been really valuable, because that's the point where you think, wow, we are changing lives, right? And some of the, you'll know from the feedback forms you've had to fill in, some of the students have been talking about just how the app is so useful, or how they've been able to use it. And that for me, because now I heard stories from the schools before, but now I have firsthand contact with young people, has been really, really rewarding, because you guys, for me, are what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really nice.
No, but it's true. Honestly, it's really lovely getting to know all of the students who participated.
Okay.
Sophia, you look like you have another burning question.
Yeah, we've got another question that's come in. Year 12, did you have a role model growing up?
Ooh. I'm trying to think. I do like talking about role models, and I know we're coming up to time, so I have to be really quick. I always think, take role models wherever you can find them. So yes, I had lots of role models. I had role models like Nelson Mandela, who, when I was at school, had just, I think, been released from prison and was starting on his political career towards being president. And just thinking, wow, like that you had a vision and it was so hard and you persevered for all of that time against the odds because you wanted to do something that you knew was right for your country. I thought was amazing. I had role models like Oprah Winfrey, because she came from such a difficult home environment, and she was able to start up, get a career in media and then become a hugely successful entrepreneur. I had role models like Anita Roddick. I don't know if you know Anita Roddick. So she started The Body Shop. I think she lived in Brighton, and she just started making her own cosmetics. And then before she knew it, she started selling them, and then it took off, and she became a really, really big entrepreneur. I have role models like Sir Richard Branson, and actually I sit on the board of Virgin Unite, which is the charity for Virgin and the Virgin brand and the Branson family, who just started so many different businesses. So just how you can create a brand and scale that brand across lots of different areas. So I grew up in Ilford. I don't know if anybody knows Ilford, which is in northeast London. And, I see young people, people who come from Ilford, like Dame Maggie Smith, from Downton Abbey, if any of you ever watched that. She grew up in Ilford, and sometimes you look at somebody, you go, wow, they grew up where I grew up, and maybe, you know. So I always say, when it comes to role models, you know, you don't have to look the same as a role model or know exactly why you have a connection with somebody. But if somebody's story resonates with you, take that and run with it, because everything is always possible. And you can find inspiration absolutely everywhere. So that's a very long-winded answer, sorry, to your question. But I did have lots of role models and lots of people that made me feel like anything was possible. Any other questions? Because we're just about at time.
I'm actually out of questions.
You're out of questions. How about you, Spear?
No, I'm out too.
Fantastic. Well, that's perfect timing. And kudos, you guys have done a superb job, I have to say. It's really been lovely getting to know all of the student interns who've helped out over half term. I hope that some of you can still come back over the following weeks to help to co-host, but a huge thanks to you both for giving up your time over your half-term holidays. Any final comments before we wrap up?
No, but thank you for talking to us about your journey. It was very interesting.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your fantastic questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye, ladies. Bye. Okay, so there you go. You got to hopefully know a little bit more about me. Thanks again to my fantastic co-hosts today. Yes, I hope to see you again on Monday from 12 till 1, when we'll be continuing the theme around positivity. And there should be a completely new look concept, because we're working on that with our student interns, and this is going to officially be a podcast from next week. So thanks again for watching, and have a lovely weekend. Bye.